I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the drama playing out in real time in Tucson. The abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a case with new developments every day, every night, but still no answers. Here's the story. In the normally peaceful Catalina foothills of North Tucson, a disturbing mystery has shattered the calm. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, was reported missing February 1st after she failed to arrive at a church service and family members discovered her home in troubling disarray. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says investigators believe Nancy was taken from the house against her will. She has limited mobility, requires daily medication, and authorities insist could not have simply walked away. Blood confirmed to be hers was found on the front steps. Detectives are also examining possible ransom notes containing specific details about Nancy and her home, though officials have not verified their authenticity. Savannah and her siblings have publicly vowed to do whatever it takes for her safe return. Now, with the FBI involved and images of a possible suspect recovered, the search for answers and the search for Nancy has intensified dramatically. Each day, each hour, each moment, it seems something new is developing in this story and our coverage of it. And obviously, the biggest thing that has happened is there is now a suspect. So I want to bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Let's talk about this suspect. Obviously, we don't know the name, and that's what they're trying to figure out. What do we know about the suspect's description?
Well, Vinnie, important to point out, initially the local sheriff there said that anybody could have been a suspect when they had no one. Take a listen to this.
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect.
So, Vinnie, that was February 5th, and now we know we do have a suspect, and we also have video of him. Surveillance video from in front of Nancy Guthrie's house. We see him here, looks to be on doorbell camera, walking up to her door. He has a gun dangling from his waistband. If you look closely in front of him, he has these leather gloves on. He has a backpack full of who knows what. He's wearing a mask. And, Vinnie, based on FBI analyzation of this doorbell camera footage, they came up with this brief description of this suspect. They say the suspect is described as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" in height with an average build. And in the video, they say he's wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. And Vinnie, we also have images of that backpack for our viewers to see what they're talking about. It's, you know, it's a pretty decent sized backpack, 25 liters. You can see it in the background there on the screen. But Vinnie, we also now have a professional sketch of what this suspect may look like. We see it here on the screen. Clearly seems, you know, believed to have dark hair, facial hair, looks like a goatee. Now let's look at this sketch compared to the surveillance images there. Now we see images from that video we were just looking at. You see the masked man there compared to the suspect sketch. You know, you might, if you look closely, you might be able to see some facial hair poking through the open mouth area of that mask. But Vinnie, I'm sure that this sketch will lead to maybe a significant lead in this investigation right now.
Absolutely. It's very eye-opening. Everybody was talking about this sketch when it, you know, was released and put out there. And it brings us to the first question in our investigation, and it's all about the sketch. How did the artist come up with this depiction, right? Suspect is wearing a mask, but we've got this relatively detailed sketch of the suspect. Huge development here. So, joining me to help figure all of this out, renowned Houston crime sketch artist and retired Houston Police Department forensic artist, the one who drew the sketch, Lois Gibson, is with us. Also joining us, private investigator, safety and security expert, and author of Prepared, Not Scared, Bill Stanton is with us. Okay, Lois, I've got a few questions for you tonight. Thank you for sharing the sketch with us and with the public. Take us through your process of what you did, what you went through to get to this sketch of this suspect.
For 43 years, I've had detectives bring me surveillance photos that were horrible or whatever problems, and I would try to enhance them or look at them, and they'd have a suspect photo, and they say, is the guy in the surveillance this guy in the suspect photo? And I have to be right, because if I was wrong, if they run a warrant, somebody could get killed. So I'm deadly serious about this work. Now, what I could see on this mask, I can see the eyes. I can see the philtrum area. I can see the hair right here. And I'm assuming he doesn't do a Hitler shave job with just hair here. The mustache goes all the way around. And then I assumed a lot of stuff. Okay. I guessed, yes, guilty as charged. I guessed at everything that's covered by the face mask, but this is desperate. I've worked kidnappings for 43 years, and I've got 8 people back that were kidnapped to their loved ones. And so what happened is, I've been with loved ones of kidnapped people, and the torture is insane. If your loved one is kidnapped, I've been in the room with them, and it would make you scream and cry. And I know the Guthries the Guthries are going through insane torture, more than if somebody's dead. If they're dead, you can have a funeral, but you don't know if your mom is being killed right now. Where is she? Where is she? And so I couldn't help myself. At first, they arrested somebody and they let him go. It wasn't him. I told myself, don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to have too much guessing. Everybody's going to ridicule you. But I couldn't help it. As soon as I cleared off this other case I was working, I went up to the easel and I just drew it. And I got the eyes, and that's not the eyebrows on the openings of the mask. That's a shadow, but you can see on one of them, you can see a tuft of an eyebrow. And I assumed it was going to match the mustache color and thickness. So there's some pretty thick, standard shaped eyebrows. Yes, I can see the eyes. You get rid of that big white shine in the middle of the iris. I got the irises. Mathematical probability, they're brown eyes, like the rest of the population of the world, mostly brown eyes. The nose, I threw on a standard nose, but as he's profiled, you can see it's not a big hook nose. It's not a big nose. It's not even really wide. And then I got a top lip and a bottom lip, the center part of the top and bottom lip, and also the philtrum length from the bottom of the nose to the top of the lip is a crucial metric, because that philtrum can be the same size on a baby as on a 7-foot man. So if you got that philtrum, you're going to have a big indication of the proportion. Then I got a little bit of the bottom lip. I threw on an average chin, and I assumed, wow, that thick of a mustache, he's going to go ahead and do a goatee. And now he might his hair might disappear right here, and it may not be attached. And maybe he doesn't have a beard. But you know what? I want to get these people back to their loved one, because I've seen people be tortured by not having their kidnapped loved one, and I couldn't help myself. I've worked 5,089 cases, and the thought that I could help, I was going to take the risk that I'd be wrong. Okay, I might be wrong. I'll take the risk. I'll take the risk. It's okay. And so I went up to the easel, and if you're real upset and you're real emotional, which I am, the drawing goes fast. So there's my shot. There's my shot for justice. There's my shot to get their mommy back.
Yeah. Bill Stanton, from your perspective investigating, obviously you've got the video, you've got the height, you've got the build, you can see pieces of the face, and Lois, through her experience, has drawn what she believes may resemble what is beneath that mask. What are your thoughts tonight about what is going to be crucial here in being able to identify this man?
Well, Vinny, thank you for having me. And Lois, you definitely quantified, your reasons and your methodology of doing the art. What I think is what we're all doing, all hands on deck, trying to add to it. What I would add about the photo, the drawing rather, is I would treat it as a guide, not gospel. Very intelligent remarks, how she quantified it. Lois, I would ask you to follow up those pictures without the mustache, without the hair, doing variants, because this perpetrator very well may be looking to change his appearance as we go along.
You're so smart.
And people are myopic, and they just may see that. What I would tell your audience, and I would tell anybody, is let's use this well thought out drawing as a guide, not gospel. If all of a sudden you see someone with a mustache and then it disappears tomorrow, you may want to do the head tilt and think about it and call in that tip. But it's going to be all of us. I see mistakes being made across the board, but there's so much information coming in. The investigators in the trenches need to be myopic in their vision and really filter what's coming in and focus on what they feel are the greatest, strongest leads.
So, Lois, just going to your background, normally you are drawing based upon eyewitness descriptions versus trying to extract something. Have you ever done anything close to this where, you know, part of a person is captured maybe on video, or perhaps even someone with a mask?
Yes, I have. For 43 years, I've done dozens. And also I did the kissing sailor identification, and all you can see is a piece of his face while he's kissing the nurse after World War II, just a piece of his face. And I have done things like that. And I've done facial reconstructions from skulls, which all you have is the bones and you don't have the hair. And I've always been successful. The last 16 skull reconstructions I did identified the person. And your other guest, you're so right. You're so right. I thought about it, and I should have done versions without a beard, maybe clean shaven. You're so intelligent.
Well, the case hasn't been solved yet. Case has not been solved yet, Lois, so you have time to do it. And please, as soon as you do it, share it with us. Thank you, Lois Gibson. Appreciate your time and your passion as well. Bill Stanton's going to stick around later in the show. Coming up next, was Nancy Guthrie alive when she was removed from her house?
We will not rest. Your children will not rest.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee. Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner, her remains are found on the couple's property.
Sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you.
I believe Savannah and her family is holding on to hope that Nancy is alive and that there's a chance to bring Nancy home in all of this. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. And Cody, the thing about Nancy, right, that makes her different than many of the victims that we've covered and makes this so different, she's 84 years old. What do we know about Nancy's medical condition?
Yeah, Vinny, you know, we heard early on from the sheriff that mentally Nancy is as sharp as a tack, but as you just said, she's still an 84-year-old woman. I mean, we've heard it was reported that she can't even walk 50 yards by herself, and she needs critical daily medication. Take a listen to her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, and the sheriff talking more about her condition.
She's 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She's without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer.
We know she is in need of medication, daily medication. And we also know that this is day 4 or 5 and still we don't know that she's getting her medication. That could in itself prove fatal.
And Vinnie, what we also know is that Nancy wore a pacemaker connected to an app on her phone. It was mentioned when the sheriff went over the timeline of events during a recent press conference. Take a listen to this.
This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera. 2:28, Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone.
And Vinnie, you know, as I listen to that, it seems to me that police authorities could be able to extract some data, you know, from that pacemaker app, considering they still have Nancy's phone.
Absolutely. That could be a huge piece of evidence in all of this. Thanks, Cody. And it brings us right to our next question in our investigation. If, in fact, they have the pacemaker and the app and the data, was Nancy Guthrie alive when she was removed from her house? Can that app and the data there give us the answer to that question? Joining me, Associate Professor of Medicine at Leland Stanford Junior University, also known as Stanford University, Dr. Marco Perez is with us. Dr. Perez, thanks so much for joining us. Let me start here. That app, she has the app that connects when she's close enough to her pacemaker, her phone. 2:28 is when the data, I guess, stops recording. What will that data tell us? Will that data tell us if she is alive or not when at the moment that it disconnects?
I mean, it's really good to be here with you and to do what I can to help in this such a challenging case. Unfortunately, the data that is transmitted from the pacemaker to the app is quite limited. As you can imagine, there are a lot of sensitivities around security, but also battery life. So the manufacturers are very careful about minimizing the amount of data that is transmitted to these apps, mainly because we don't want to overtax and drain battery from these pacemakers. So when the pacemaker connects with the application, and it does so about once a day, it only transmits pretty basic information like battery life, but it does not necessarily transmit information such as an ECG or heart rate or anything like that. Every 3 months or so, it does a much bigger data transmission with a lot more detailed information that then goes to the clinician. But what gets stored in the app itself is quite limited.
So from your perspective, there's not going to be any way to determine whether or not she was alive. There certainly wouldn't be a way to tell whether or not she was sleeping and then she woke up. I think a lot of people are thinking it's like an Apple Watch and it gives you all this data. That's right. Just not the case, is what you're telling us.
It's just not the case. It's not like an Apple Watch where every few seconds or minutes you have a heart rate that's recorded via light sensors in the back of your Apple Watch that then get transmitted to your phone and get stored in your application, in your health application there. This is very different. This is really meant, the daily checks that are done in these communications between the pacemaker and the phone are really meant to alert patients and their clinicians if there's, say, a very dangerous heart rhythm or something malfunctioning with the device. So these emergency alerts can get sort of transmitted, but vital information like heart rate is not transmitted, and it's not that you, if you have this application, you can't just look at the application and see what the pacemaker has been measuring on a minute-by-minute basis.
Okay, now how about someone who has a pacemaker? Are there certain medications that you need to take to stay alive, or are there medications that you take sort of to help everything work better and prevent bad things from happening?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, a lot of patients who have pacemakers have a lot of other medical conditions, things like high blood pressure or problems in the arteries around their heart, things like that. But the pacemaker is really designed to function on its own. So typically somebody who has a very slow heartbeat needs a pacemaker so that it can stimulate the heart to beat a little bit faster or beat normally. But there are no medications that are required for the pacemaker to work. It can just work independently. It doesn't need to be connected to the application or a smartphone, and it doesn't need other medications to work properly.
And one final question, Dr. Perez. What would be your biggest concern if you were her doctor, and knowing that she has a pacemaker and she may be being held against her will in conditions that are not great, and she's 84 years old? What would be your biggest concerns?
Well, certainly if there was some kind of pacemaker malfunction, if she relied very, very heavily on the stimulating activity of the pacemaker and the pacemaker stopped functioning well, then we wouldn't be able to get any alerts or information like that to let the patient know that there's something wrong. And certainly if there are other cardiovascular medications that she needs, not necessarily for the function of the pacemaker, but that may be related to her heart in other ways. I mean, that I would be most concerned about that.
All right, Dr. Marco Perez, Associate Professor of Medicine, Stanford University. I've been away from the farm for a long time, but I've got to get back out there. And if I do, I'm going to come by and see Dr. Perez. Thanks so much.
Yeah, knock on our door.
Beat Cal.
Great to see you.
Beat Cal. All right, still to come. Is there enough evidence to solve this case right now? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. The momentum seems to indicate investigators are getting closer, but Nancy's family is still waiting for the answers. Here's the story. When 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie failed to show up at a church service on Sunday morning, worry quickly escalated into a criminal investigation. The mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie was last seen around 9:45 p.m. Saturday, January 31st, at her home in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson. By midday Sunday, relatives who found no sign of her inside contacted authorities. Investigators soon declared the residence a crime scene, saying the evidence strongly suggests Nancy did not leave on her own and was likely taken against her will. Blood confirmed to be hers was discovered on the front porch. Authorities have also said security cameras and digital monitoring connected to her pacemaker were disabled around the time she disappeared. Now the FBI has joined the case and recovered previously lost images of a possible suspect. With those new leads in hand, the search for Nancy and the person responsible has intensified dramatically. As we watch this play out in real time, right, and new developments each day, each hour, you have to take a moment to kind of just stop and just take a look and, all right, what exactly do we have here? I want to bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Let's go through a list of the evidence that we know about, Cody.
Yeah, Vinny, it's starting to become a lengthy list, and we'll begin with the blood spatter on the front steps of Nancy Guthrie's house. Of course, we see it there on the video that the samples of that blood splatter were sent off for DNA testing. It came back as a match confirmed to be Nancy's. But the interesting thing about the blood spatter, Vinny, is that police say no blood was found anywhere else inside the house or outside the house, just in that one spot near the front door. But then, Vinny, we move on. We have this image obtained by the New York Post showing a black glove found 1.5 miles away from the home. Now, there were reports we saw swirling around about a glove found inside the house, but that has since been reported to be debunked. But now they say this glove here that was found away from the home, they say that glove resembles the pair worn by a masked man who is suspected of abducting Nancy. So that brings us to a video of that masked man. Video put out by the FBI caught on Nancy's doorbell camera. And in this video, we see he has those black gloves on. He has a gun, a backpack full of who knows what, trying to cover the doorbell camera there, clearly up to no good on this 84-year-old woman's property. And Vinnie, speaking of that doorbell camera, watching footage of it, if we look back at the video here of the blood, we come up, we pan the camera up there. You see there next to the door, that's where the doorbell camera should be, but it's missing. The doorbell camera is gone. We don't know where it is, who has it, but is not there where it was before. Now, based on the video we saw on the doorbell camera, Vinnie, the FBI did release a suspect description based on analysis of that video. They say the person is a male, approximately 5'9", 5'10", average build, wearing a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack, a very specific backpack that they outlined in that description. We're seeing images of it there now. Pretty large backpack, a lot of space to fill, and he came there with the full backpack at odd hours of the night. But Vinnie, the latest, we now have a professional sketch of what the suspect may look like under that mask as well. Dark hair, facial hair, looks like a goatee. You know, in that video, you could see through the mouth hole on the mask. You could probably see some, facial hair poking through that on the mask. But Vinnie, one of the most crucial parts of this investigation, there's also been multiple ransom letters sent to local media outlets there in Tucson, to national media outlets. Take a listen to FBI officials talking about those ransom letters.
There have been, as far as we know, I think 3 ransom notes so far, 1 arrest. Are they all different? Do you think there's different authors behind all of them, or?
So the one that went to the media is the one we are currently investigating and working on. The imposter that I talked about, where an arrest was made early this morning, that there will be more information. We believe there's no evidence to connect this to Nancy's case. It was someone that was trying to profit from it, a total imposter.
So, Vinnie, that press conference was from February 5th, and we know there has since been more letters sent out to local outlets, making more demands, millions in Bitcoin specifically. He talked about an imposter arrested for trying to take advantage of the Guthrie family's pain right now. So demands being made, deadlines being passed in these ransom letters, but still no sign of Nancy Guthrie.
Yes, but a lot of evidence piling up. And obviously that evidence, including some DNA that was sent down to the lab, being analyzed. I'm sure they're analyzing the glove, looking through records for the backpacks. So with the evidence in hand, it brings us to the next question in our investigation. Is there enough evidence to solve this case right now? Like the evidence they have now, with some analysis of that evidence, is that going to be enough to lead to an arrest? Joining me, host of the Hidden True Crime podcast and YouTube channel, Lauren Mathias is with us, and still with us, private investigator Bill Stanton. Bill, I'll begin with you. What are your thoughts here? Do they just need to analyze the evidence they have and follow up on the evidence they have, or do you think they need to find more evidence to solve this case?
Well, first thing, we only know what we're told and what we've seen that's in the public ether. I got to believe there's a certain percentage that we're not knowing. Now, to answer your question, I absolutely believe there's enough information out there and your viewers all over this country that may have a link to add to the evidence already gathered. So I do believe there's enough intel. Now, there's the case and there's the management of the case and the synergy, meaning the FBI needs to play nice with the sheriff's office, vice versa. I think the citizens of Tucson and the press, we all need to focus to catch this perpetrator and bring Mrs. Guthrie home alive.
Lauren Mathias, you have covered many of these ongoing investigations, and you've seen in the past what it takes to finally lead to an arrest. Sometimes it takes a lot of years, like in Delphi. Other cases, it takes months, like in Idaho 4. What are your thoughts now, based upon what we've learned and what we've observed and see play out there? Do you think they have what they're going to need here to get to an arrest?
You know, Vinnie, I think they do. It's interesting that you actually brought up Delphi, because those 2 little girls went missing 9 years ago today. And the biggest evidence in that case was the video of Bridge Guy. Everybody knows Bridge Guy. They essentially, that was the biggest piece of evidence taken by Abby and Libby themselves. And we have now Nest Cam of this person or one of the people, right? There's a persons of interest out there. We don't know how many people are involved, but we've seen one. Then we've learned today that there is actually DNA inside the house that doesn't match Nancy and that it doesn't match anyone close to her. So who does that belong to? If that comes out to match somebody on this Nest Cam, and it's amazing what technology can do these days, I think we have a pretty solid grouping of evidence to help solve this case. And then again, as it was just pointed out, there is so much that we don't know too, right? So much that we don't know. But between those two things, simply things that we've now heard that the public knows, I think we have a really good, solid lead. And DNA and somebody on cam is actually, I think, a lot more than a lot of cases have.
Yeah, it really is. And great work in being able to retrieve that video. Bill Stanton, let me ask you a question. If the person on that porch left DNA in the house and they analyze it, we know that people with criminal records will often have their DNA in the database. From observing the way this person was acting on that porch, do you think there's a chance this is some sort of a career criminal with a rap sheet whose DNA would be in the database? Or do you think it may take genetic genealogy to track this guy down?
I'm gonna split the difference with you, Vinny. I don't think he's the sole assailant. I think he's the hired lackey. I think there was more than one person. I think it was targeted. It wasn't random. And I don't think he has the physicality to take a person, carry them, put them in the car, manage them. I just don't see it happening. So I think he's a low-level thug, may have minor, probably DUIs, some thefts, and whoever's behind it hired him or went in partners with this individual to do part of the dirty work.
Yeah, Lauren, I agree with Bill on that. I've been thinking that since we've seen the video. He almost oozes being a lackey. Like, just the way he moves and looks and the things that he's doing. What does your gut tell you, Lauren? Do you think if this person left DNA at the scene and they identify it, do you think they're going to find it in the database, or are they going to have to resort to the genetic genealogy like they did in Idaho 4? And that takes a little bit more time.
Yeah, who this is, I think, depends on the motive. Whether or not this person was acting alone or if this was an organized crime and he was, essentially the hired person to get this done. I think that from the looks of it, he seems very competent. That's one thing I've seen. He as confident and fearless. Like, he is on a mission. At the same time, he doesn't seem like a career criminal. He's picking up plants out of the front yard and holding them up for the doorbell camera like, oh yeah, second thought, maybe should have thought of that one. I've got a full backpack, but didn't consider what I was going to use here. I'll just grab these plants. So he's kind of a contradiction, right? This confidence that he's walking up on this sort of mission, knows exactly why he's there, more than we do, and yet not completely prepared and a little surprised when he sees a Nest Cam doorbell. So are we going to find him in the database, which is what your question is? I'm not completely sure, honestly. It feels like he's making a lot of mistakes for someone that should know exactly what they're doing. But I go back to the fact that today, thanks to genealogy websites, what database will we find him in, right? If it's not one database, will it be another? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill Stead, so when you describe like a lackey, like that, to me, you're thinking he's the weak link in the chain, the one that might easily roll over if they were able to get him and bring in other people who may be involved?
I think they get one, they get all. To me, the energy that I'm getting is that this guy was given a script. He was given the plan. This is what the house looks like. You may want to case it out. So while he may have seen it from the street, right, the person behind it gave him the details. So go to the door. So I guess he wasn't anticipating it. To me, it seemed like he wasn't expecting the Nest Cam. He may have been the second or third one, and it looked like they were on a job. It looked like, You know, he's this guy, low education, menial jobs his whole life, right? Did a couple of like breaking and enterings, you know, maybe took a car in his youth, and he's getting hired for this, and he's going to get the big payday. I do not think this was a contracted homicide, because why would they take the body? Why would it be done in such a manner? Why would you even be wearing a mask, you know, if you knew the whole layout, you knew where everything was? I think this is a kidnapping, and I hope she's alive.
All right, Bill Stanton, always great to take advantage of your experience and insight. Lauren Mathias is going to stick around. Coming up next, what impact is all of this social media attention having on the case?
We love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you.
You know the drill. Be there when it pops. We'll get to it. We'll get this guy.
Like we always do.
This is gonna be fun. Then let's get it on. I love this team.
Find Ion on your channel guide or favorite streaming service.
She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement.
And there have been moments throughout my career at Court TV when there are stories that just take over. Not just take over, you know, our network, but take over the news cycle. And in the world we live in now, it's social media, like we saw it in Johnny Depp, Alec Murdaugh, Idaho 4. It can be a trial, it can be an investigation, it can be the search for a killer. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, obviously, everyone on social, not everyone, but lots of people are talking about this on social media. What sort of things are we seeing?
Well, yeah, Vinny, if it's not everyone, it's close to it. We're seeing a wide array of things. We're seeing people with their own theories, people with their own conspiracies, thousands of posts. Take a look at a couple of these clips.
Where the hell is Nancy? Where the hell is Nancy?
They took Savannah Guthrie's mother? Who steals somebody's mother? There's a ransom. They really kidnapped somebody's grandma.
Where is she? Where isn't she? They know where she is. She's already been found, and they're doing something else with it. And I don't know what, and I can't speak to that.
My thoughts and prayers are with Nancy Guthrie and her family. And please let me know, who do you think did this? And do you think this case gets more suspicious by the day?
A new bombshell has entered the villa, and it is this man right here in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance.
It was the sister. It had to be the sister. Look at her eyes. And Tommaso? Who spells Tomas with an extra O? Think about it. Okay, where is Nancy? She is not in the septic tank. Damn it, I'm gonna go find this damn lady myself.
Nancy is in her 80s. What the hell y'all need with Nancy?
Vinny, I think the common denominator between all of those people and the rest of the world, the answer to the question they want, where is Nancy?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Cody. Great work tonight. Appreciate it. That brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. What impact is all this social media attention having on the case? Right? There's been no arrest. It hasn't been solved. Still with me, podcaster Lauren Mathias, and joining me, criminal defense attorney, host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob Mata. All right, Lauren, ladies first. What do you think here? What's the impact on this particular case?
Let's talk about the positives first. This case is getting attention. And we heard there from Savannah, right? If anybody knows anything, please, someone had to have heard something. The more eyes on something, the better. It reminds me of Gabby Petito, when the world looked for Gabby Petito. And the world found Gabby Petito. It was a horrific ending, but we We found her, and I think that was a time when social media really did help the investigation. Negatives, the rumor mill, people being innocently doxxed, people starting large conspiracies, maybe people being, headed out to Tucson themselves and saying, I'm going to solve this. But I would say overall, it's a case that is social media is putting pressure on law enforcement to not just wonder where is Nancy, but to bring Nancy home. We want to see her safe.
Yeah, and the Gabby Petito case, was a YouTuber. It was a YouTuber's video where they spotted her van. Bob, what are your thoughts here? What impact is all this attention on social media having on this case?
It's a blessing and a curse, right? Obviously what law enforcement wants to get out to the public at large, obviously social media is incredibly helpful with that. When they get a video of a potential suspect, a likely suspect, they can get it out to the world at large. And, the hope being that somebody's gonna be like, hey, I recognize that guy's walk, his gait, the way that he picks flowers, whatever the case may be. And the hope is that leads to a tip that leads to an arrest. And, obviously the other part of it is that there are a lot of people online that can produce incredibly useful information, but that is balanced by people that are doing things that are not helpful and are frankly hurtful. Lois Gibson, she's an amazing sketch artist, probably the most accomplished in the country, and she puts out a sketch based on just this dude's eyes. Frankly, I'm kind of waiting for the feds to knock on my door. Or do I need to shave? People just need to be responsible with what they're doing. And, that's always the concern. It is that blessing and a curse. It's the ability to get information out to the masses instantaneously, but with that comes a lot of problems.
We have about 20 seconds each. Lauren first, what do you think the suspect thinks of all this social media attention?
Yeah, I have to say, first off, I agree with Bob that these resources are incredible. And what do they think of this attention? It depends on who it is, right? Are they the ones sending the ransom notes and are they loving this attention? Or is all the social media attention causing people to send fake ransom notes and disrupt this investigation? I think that's actually the ultimate question. How does the suspect like this, and is it actually helping in this case?
Bob?
Yeah, the ransom note thing is weird, right? It seems like it's kind of fallen off the map completely. TMZ got somehow inserted as a major piece of this puzzle, which is bizarre. Ultimately, how it's going to shake out, I hope that the damage that's been done doesn't cost Nancy her life.
Big thanks. Bob Mata, Lauren Mathias, Hidden True Crime, and Defense Diaries. Check them out, folks. Imagine being the suspect tonight. Everyone is talking about you, and everyone is looking for you. The amazing thing about the true crime community is that they care. They want to help. They will dig everywhere for an answer. And my guess is someone will dig up that crucial piece of video investigators need. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.